Hello and welcome to the Engagely onboarding video. Today there is a couple of topics we're going to cover. We're going to cover number one, how to sign up. Number two, verifying your account. Number three will be creating your first pixel. The fourth will be installing the actual pixel on your website. And then the fifth and probably most important will be actually creating your first campaign and Engagely notification. All right, so let's get started. So obviously we're on Engagely.io. So if you don't already have an account, the first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and register. Okay, so in this scenario, I'm going to create a demo user. Okay, so I haven't created this in advance, so we're going to go ahead and use this account that I already have a email address for. Okay, and let's see. And then obviously, if you want to view the terms, you can click into the terms and privacy policy. But for the instances of this demo, we're just going to go ahead and register. Okay, so now we've been created an actual account. So the next thing we're going to have to do in order to make our account active is we're going to have to click the link, right? You're proving that you're a real person. All right, so I'll just go ahead and log into my Engagely. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and log into my Engagely. Okay, now we're in. So as you can see, we've received our user activation email. So we'll go ahead and click into that. And obviously, you're going to go ahead and click activate your account. With that accomplished, now we'll be taken directly to our account. So the next steps are going to be pretty simple, right? So we're going to, and obviously if you signed up, you have been added to our trial. So you're going to get access to basically everything that Engagely has to offer. But for this scenario, one thing to keep in mind is like campaigns are basically representative of like domains, right? So they're going to revolve around a website. So in this scenario, we have one website, whereas in other scenarios, you may have multiple websites or multiple variations, right? So you might have like a subdomain, et cetera. But for this one, it's going to be specifically for a demo that I've already set up. Okay, so let's go ahead and create our first campaign. Okay, so obviously we're going to give it a name. So we're going to say demo video campaign. All right, and then this scenario, let's see what the URL is. There we go. We're just going to copy that URL. As you can see, this one is a subdomain that I'm using. So I set up a, like a test e-commerce website. It's a simple WooCommerce install, but the rules would apply pretty much for any type of website. However, the actual implementation might be a bit different for each one. And we'll try to go ahead and create additional videos as time moves on. But considering the amount of people that have, WordPress websites, etc., as long as you have an area that you can add pixel code anywhere in the head, then you should be fine. But for today's purposes, we're going to base it on a WordPress install. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create our domain. Okay, we're going to copy that pixel. Now, what you might want to do is perhaps you want to have like a notepad laying around where you can at least save this code for further usage. Hey, maybe you get a power outage or something like that. But either way, you'll always be able to come back into Engagely and copy code for this campaign. Since I've already got a website set up, I'm going to go ahead and basically log in to the WordPress admin. And for today's purposes, we're going to use a specific plugin. I'll put it down in the comments of the video itself, but just in case you're watching this somewhere else where the comments aren't necessarily available, the name of the plugin, I believe, is Insert Headers and Footers. But let's just go ahead and go through here and we'll see what we got. All right, so we're going to go to plugins. So obviously we're in our WordPress admin. We're going to go to Add New. Okay. And over here on the right-hand side, we're going to type insert header, and we should get, probably our first result is going to be inset headers and footers. All right, so it's our second one. This is really, it's pretty trustworthy. Obviously, we're not the developers of this, but as you can see, it's been updated 3 weeks ago, so it's a project that's being actively maintained, so I highly suggest using it, okay? So we're going to go ahead and grab that. We're going to go ahead and activate it now. So it's been installed, and now it's been activated. Okay, and now that that's been done, we're going to go ahead and we're going to, maybe it's going to be under settings. It is. We're going to go ahead and click on insert headers and footers. And then very simple, right here where it says scripts and header, this is where you're going to basically paste the code that you copied from here. So you copy it from there, you come over here, you hit paste. That's it. It's good. You go ahead and you save it. And that's it. And now, basically, this is going to take effect on any page on that specific website, in a sense. Okay, so now we're done with this. We're done for here. Well, actually, we're done for this for now. We might want to just go ahead and visit like any page just to make the actual script trigger. So now, like, our system will know, hey, that's working somewhere else. But I'll go ahead and close that now. All right, so since we have the pixel installed on our website right now, and we have a campaign, which is currently active, so I can make it inactive. So if it's gray, it's inactive. If it's purple, it's active. I will go ahead and click into the campaign. Now, the campaign does not have a notification yet. That would be our next step, right? So right now, and keep in mind, for any campaign, you can have multiple notifications. And for today's scenario, that's what I'm going to go through, a couple of use cases. Let's go ahead and create our first notification. So the first step is going to be to go ahead and create that notification. So we'll just call it first notification. Okay. And now below, you're going to have a couple of options, right? So you're going to have from any one of these, any of these actual types of notifications, right? So you can create an informational bar. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you go back to the website and look at some of the demos that are already there, right? So on the main menu, you're going to have some examples. So actually, if we just kind of go back to Engagely, and you go over top here, you'll have like the default notifications. And then you'll have the premium notifications. So these are the ones that are going to come with paid packages. However, in the demo, you are going to have access to every one of these. Okay. So once you have an idea of what type you want to create, for this purpose, we're just going to do a, we're going to do like a collector bar, right? So it tells you right now, right, collect emails or leads without distracting the users, right? So this is going to be a kind of like a pop-up in a sense, right? So we'll go ahead and we'll go with that one first. And like I said, you can just go ahead and click any one that you want to proceed with. And it will show you what it's going to look like, right? So this is a collector bar that's going to pop up at the bottom of the page. We also do have a pop-up modal, which will be in the center. So we can do something like this, and that's a pop-up modal as well. Actually, we'll even go with that one, right? So we'll go down to the bottom of the page, and now we'll hit create. Okay, so now, obviously, as you can see, this is not active yet, and we'll leave it inactive. And we'll leave it inactive until we've gone ahead and actually finished customizing this, because this is where you're going to be able to leverage everything in the system itself, right? So we give you a little bit of flexibility on how you want to work on this, right? So you'll be able to control the title here, the subtitle, the colors, for instance, are all going to be customizable here, right? So here we'll say, hey, sign up for our deals, okay? And that should be a sufficient information, but put whatever you want as far as the subtitle. It's already set for you, but you can do whatever you want. You could go and you can add an image to this as well if you wanted to. And the placeholder is just what it says in here, right? So we can say your valid email. I mean, we're collecting an email, so we'll leave it at that. And then obviously we can modify the button text as well, right? If we wanted to show an agreement, we would hit that and then give a link to the actual agreement itself. But for the demo purposes, we're not going to do that, right? And we don't have to save this yet. This will all remain. But if you want just to be, sure that you're not going to lose anything, just go ahead and update your work. Obviously, things happen, right? So It's probably a good practice to go ahead and save your work as you go. Now, this is probably the most important thing, right? So triggers, right? So there's a couple of things that you can do with triggering our notifications, right? And when we say notifications, that covers everything, right? So for instance, we could just trigger it on all pages, right? So that would be all pages on the website, regardless of what the URL reads. We're going to say, hey, it's going to be active on every page. But for our purposes, we're only going to make it show up on the actual homepage of this e-commerce website. So instead of trigger on all pages, we're going to select that and we're going to do an exact match. Now, as far as matching, you can say it contains these words, and we'll get into that a little bit further down the road. We can say it starts with, we can say it ends with, or contains, basically, right? But for this one, we're just going to say it's an exact match, and we're going to drop the URL in there. Okay, so we've done that. Now, as far as the display trigger, that's basically, you have a couple of options, right? So you can delay it before it pops up. You could do like an exit intent. And what an exit intent means is when the browser senses the mouse about to exit the page, it'll trigger it basically, right? Additionally, you could do like a scroll percentage, right? When somebody's gone, 50% of the way down, right? So like that, we could trigger it as well. But for this one, we're just going to do a delay. So we're going to give the people like, let's just say, we're going to say 7 seconds, or let's just say 5 for our demo purposes. We're going to delay it. And the thing is, how often do we want it to show? Do we want to show it to them every time? Or do we want it to just show it to them maybe like once per visitor session, right? Or once per browser. For this one, we'll just do all the time because maybe during this demo, I'm going to want to show it to you more than once. But for the most part, I'm going to say you're going to do once per session. Okay, but we'll leave it all the time right now. Now, the question is, do we want to display it on small screens and large screens? And the reason why you might want to consider that is some of the notifications may look a bit better. So maybe you'll want to use one type of a collector on a mobile screen and have a different one on a larger screen. And that's also kind of a way to like segment and A/B test performance. But, for this scenario, we're just going to say, hey, display it on all screens. And as based on the rule that I said before, let's go ahead and update that. So now we've saved it. So what did we do here? So what we did is we said it's going to show up on only this page. We're going to wait 5 seconds for it to show. We're going to show it all the time, and we're going to show it on both large and small screens. Okay. Now, as far as the display, the question is, how long do we want it to show? Right. So in this scenario, let's go ahead and change that to 10 seconds. So we want that to show for 10 seconds. And then the question is, where do we want it to appear on the page, right? So we can make it show on the top left, top center, top right, middle left, middle center. I mean, you get the idea. I'm not going to go through all of them. But for this one, we're just going to say, hey, show it to me in the middle of the page. That's typically pretty simple. And then obviously, do we want to display a close button? Now, a lot of people know if they click outside of a box, it'll close. But just to, encourage good user experience, we do give you that option to show the close button. As far as display branding, this would only be if you had a premium account. So instead of it saying like here where it says buy Engagely, you could actually have your own company's name on there as well. Or, maybe perhaps you're like a reseller, like an agency, and you want your name to show on there. That would be completely acceptable as well. But like I said, that's part of a premium account. All right, so we'll go ahead and save that as well. Okay, and we're getting to the end now, so let's go ahead and customize. And keep in mind, this doesn't take as long. I'm explaining everything step by step. But in this scenario, let's go ahead and give it a color. We'll say, all right, we want to make it red. All right, the text below it is pretty good, but maybe we'll just make it like some type of a, let's say like something gray or something like that, right? Okay, so it doesn't stand out that much. The background color, I could obviously change the background color of this box if I wanted to. I could even use a pattern. Let's say the button, let's make the button like let's make it like a green, right? Green's like typically a good call to action button. And if we click that now we have a green button. Now, one thing is once you start changing the colors and stuff like that, you will have to choose a border color. There's something that we're working on basically, but you can just go ahead and, you can make it white if you want, in a sense. You could also just choose a transparent color. It's not going to look any different to you. Okay. And then do we want to display a shadow? So if you can see the shadow right there, we have a little bit of one. We can also turn off the shadow, and now there is no shadow. But shadows are pretty nice, so it definitely helps things pop a little bit more. And then, like, what type of an animation do we want it to have, right? So it can fade in or fade out, slide in and up, zoom in, bounce in. I like the bounce in effect, so let's go ahead and do bounce in and bounce out. Okay, we'll go ahead and update that. Okay. And then the last one is the data. So the question is, where do we want this data to basically be sent? Now, our system is set up to collect the data for you. So if somebody does fill this out, the email address would get saved to our system, and you'd be able to view it under your data system here. But for this scenario, let's go ahead and we can send it somewhere. So we can send it to a webhook. If you're not familiar with webhooks it's not something you really have to concern yourself with, especially if you have a developer. If you have a developer, he'll be more than aware of what a webhook is. And basically what that means is it allows our results to go to third-party applications, right? So you can integrate this to pretty much any other third-party application that supports webhooks. It's that simple. But for this scenario, we can just go ahead and we can send it to another email address. So I'll just say... send it to my email address. Okay. And that's that. Or I could even send it to the demo account that I had set up as well. Actually, let's do that. Let's do demo user since we're still logged into that. So we'll have that sent to there. Okay. And we'll hit update. And then the last thing, if you recall, is we're going to want to go ahead and hit change the status, right? So now we've just made this live. That's it. It's live on our sys. So when I go back to this page, if I reload this, theoretically, I should see that notification. But before we do that, I just want to explain a couple of things. So once your notifications are set up, you'll be able to come in here and see statistics. You'll see that there are absolutely no statistics right now. So let's go ahead and see if we can actually get some data flowing. So if we've done everything correctly and we hit refresh within, 5 seconds, I think we'd set it up. Within 5 seconds, we should get, our modal should pop up. So once the page, and that counts from page load, and there you go. That's our pop-up, and that'll show for 10 seconds. Let's go ahead and fill it out now. So let's just say test@test.com, and we'll hit sign me up. And that's it. It goes away. All right. So now that we're back in here, let's go ahead and hit refresh. Okay, and there we go. We got our first, so we can see, and the clicks would be if we had URLs that we were making people click. And let's go ahead and look at our data. Okay, and we can see the converted data, and we can see where the person was out of. Okay, the input that they had done, the value, etc. That's it. Probably a little bit more in depth than it would have to be, but I just want to make sure you all understand that, right? So